All right, Randee Johnson on the podcast, cancer survivor, Safe Logic business owner. What else would you add to your headline for Randee Johnson?
Oh, I'm a mom.
And most importantly,
yeah,
I forgot about that
mom.
part. How many kids do you have?
3.
3 kids. Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Ages?
My daughter Veda is 8. My son Hudson is 13, and my oldest daughter is 15, Charlotte.
How are the teenagers?
So good.
They are.
Yeah, I'm actually homeschooling them this year. My daughter, my oldest, and I just got back from a work vacation to Maui last week, and we got scuba open water certified together. So she got 3 high school credits for that.
How
and I was
cool.
like, I'm winning at homeschooling, momming.
Win.
Yeah.
You seem to you're winning at everything. You just opened a new location out in Wasilla.
Yes.
For Safe Logic. Did you buy a building or?
No, I'm actually renting it from a real estate agency that had a really prime location up for rent, and some people are moving out, and we happened to see the listing like the day that it posted and did a walkthrough and grabbed the spot. And we're actually subleasing to R Squared General Contracting, so that kind of takes a little pressure off the overhead of the lease. But I had all these people coming to Anchorage every day, and between gas and their work time, I had quite a crew of people that live in the valley. So we just downsized here and then got a spot for 6 people in the valley. So it's super awesome.
That's nice of you to accommodate your employees who live out there.
I also live out there though.
Yeah. You live in Palmer?
Yeah.
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 Okay. So you commuted in as well.
Yeah. Well, not so much anymore.
Yeah.
I try to pick and choose when I'm commuting and come here when it's convenient for me.
So tell me, because I don't know the story behind Safe Logic, and first of all, how did this come about? Where did this, a lot of people have a zero risk propensity for this kind of thing, going out on their own. And where did you get the balls, so to speak, to take the leap into entrepreneurial world? And obviously it's been more than great for you and where you're at today, but start us from the beginning, sort of.
Sure. Originally I went to UAA. I wanted to become a pilot. I went to the Professional Aviation College at Merrill Field, was learning how to fly. Had a bunch of college roommates that were a big pain. And so my best girlfriend, Jen, and I decided to go on a little adventure and move to the East Coast. So we drove through Canada and all the way to Florida, stopped at every college in between and saw our friends.
From Alaska?
Yeah. In a
Florida.
Honda Civic.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just the 2 of us. My parents were pissed. I don't think my dad talked to me for 6 months, actually.
Because you dropped out of college for a little bit.
Well, yes. Dropped out of college and drove across the country, just 2 18-year-old girls, and moved to Florida. And then when I was there, I met my oldest daughter's dad, and he was in the Navy. And so he was getting stationed in Maine. And because my parents are actually both from Maine, I was able to follow him up there and be around all my family, my grandparents and cousins and aunts and uncles. And went to the University of Southern Maine for economics. And I worked at Bank of America for 4 years, went to college there for 4 years, was heavy into finance and econ, and wanted to be a nerdy economist. And then him and I were going through a divorce, and I needed to move back to Alaska. So my mom voluntold me for a job as a safety admin for a safety director. And I was like, no, not doing it. I was like, I want to work at the bank. That's my goal. That's my dream. I wanted to be on Wall Street.
You want
someday.
To be in finance.
Yeah. I wanted to be the lady in New York City that's got her briefcase and is going to the market when it opens. But so I took the position because it was good pay, and I didn't have a job lined up here, and my daughter was, pretty young. So I was a single mom, come back to Alaska, I take this job, and I caught all the admin up stuff pretty quickly. And then next thing I know, he's like, let me take you out in the field so you can do safety. I was like, weird. Okay. Like, I didn't even know there was a profession where people actually made sure other people were safe. I thought it was like, hey, we all just try our best here. Like not speeding on the highway. It's like,
Oh yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you kind of monitor yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
based
Like,
on
we're
the
adults
rules.
here.
Yeah.
Like, can we just adult? So then I go out in the field and I'm like, whoa, this is a really cool job. And people responded really well to me because I was like kind of one of them. And, my dad had been in construction my whole life. So I was like, this is really fun. Okay, maybe I'll do it for a year. So I kept doing it. And then I kind of realized like what a cool career it was, and that it like, pretty good paying career, and that even though it's a male dominated career path, like
Yeah, I was gonna
women
say,
actually
like, yeah,
excel in it.
how is it being a female in this, and why do you think it is that that women excel? What?
It's because I think, if we're going to be real.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a group of men and they're good at their job, right? They're swinging hammers, they're carpenters, crane operators,
Building things.
electricians, whatever it is, they're good at it and they know it, and they're a provider, and they're supporting their family. And you send another dude up who has got clean clothes, the clean hard hat guy.
I see.
He's like, excuse me, you're not being safe. And this guy is like working in a ditch, like doing physical labor all day. I'm not saying, and I'm sure there's going to be some male safety professionals listening to this. There are phenomenal male safety professionals, but I do think that as a woman, when you approach that situation, you're approaching it with a lot more of a, hey, I'm your sister, I care. Hey, I'm your mom, I care type of feeling, or even your wife. Like, so in real life, men are used to being told to be safe by women. That's what we do. I have a son. Every time he goes to football, I'm like, okay, don't get hurt. You're snowboarding. Make sure you have your helmet on.
Yeah.
Like, don't drive too fast.
Yeah.
Like, look both ways.
And the dad's like, oh, we're okay.
Yeah. And the dad's like, send it. So for men, having a woman approach
that actually
you
makes a lot of sense
and just say, hey, and it's like a lot of times we're smiling and we maybe bring cookies or donuts because that's just like built into us a little bit. And even if we are authoritative, it comes across as more of like, I'm doing it because I care, not because I want to have control or power over you.
Yes.
So men have a struggle where it's like, you don't want to seem like a cop, like a safety cop, because nobody like a speeding ticket, right? It's like instantly pissed. You're not like, oh, thank you for helping me save my own life.
Yeah.
You're like, bro, I got places to be. So when a guy approaches, if they don't have the, hey, I respect you, hey, here's the deal attitude, you can lose the construction workers in like a second.
Oh, that's like, such an interesting psychology experience or experiment. Like, just knowing, like, when you're you see this happen too in situations where someone is more interested in controlling the situation than actually helping and caring about it. And so, like, just from like a lessons in life thing, I think for anything you do, like, don't try to control the situation. People are going to be way more responsive when you just show you genuinely care and you're trying to make this better and you're supporting them.
Right. Which is why being like a caring mom type, nurturing type of woman who also can be authoritative comes across in a way that people buy in. And so I try to actually like mentor my staff on that. Like, cause not all females are created that way either. Sometimes I have female employees where I've struggled with them being a little bit too authoritative or aggressive or safety cop-ish. And it's part of
like,
the
you
industry.
have to do what I say.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you need to get them, you need to sell it to them, right? A little bit.
You have to build rapport, and you have to make them want to do it. Because if you can't make them want to do it, once you walk away, you've lost them.
Okay, so, rewind to the infinite universe, and in the situation where you were this banker finance person, who's happier?
Yeah.
The Safe Logic Randee Johnson, or the finance bat lady with the suit, the briefcase, with the pantsuit.
Yes, walking. I wore a pantsuit. Okay, so
I had these same pictures in my head too when I was growing up. I'm like, I'm gonna wear a suit and I'm gonna be a lawyer, and then I grew up and I'm like,
and now we're
I would have been
entrepreneurs. So Safety Randee, Entrepreneur Randee is probably the happiest I've ever been in my life, if we're being honest. I'm wearing extra tufts right now that you can't see. Yes. It's like I showed up when I felt like it today.
Yep.
And I know what I'm doing is like helping people and helping businesses. So I feel good every day about what I actually do. And that keeps me like motivated and passionate. And it does pay the bills. And I have an amazing team. So yeah, I did wear a suit every day to Bank of America and high heels. I actually was like seeing a chiropractor and like a physical therapist regularly, I think, because I was wearing high heels every day. It's pretty miserable, honestly. And once I got into a position of management, I was getting yelled at every single day by a mad customer because when the bank takes their money or freezes their account or does something wrong,
or overdraft fees or
it
late
doesn't
fees.
matter
Yeah.
what happened on the
Yeah.
back end. If you are the face, you are getting this brunt
You are in the
all
trenches.
day. Yeah. And I would just be like, okay, I'm really sorry. And then people are just yelling at me. And so I had a hard time with that. But and also like helping people build wealth is awesome, and it's something that I'm passionate about, helping my friends with like finance stuff and like
Oh, you
financial
still kind of
goals.
dabble in that stuff in
Maybe
your
just like personally.
Yeah, personally.
You know, like I'll be like, oh,
Well, I
think
love
about this,
yeah.
you know, but
I love how you brought up, which is really close to my heart in terms of like what brings me joy and purpose, which is like serving people and like helping people accomplish things and helping businesses and providing for people. I mean, you talked about men and women and the differences, and I think for me as a man, like providing for my family is a big deal, and now I'm providing for a staff and making sure they have jobs and tasks to do, and we have clients and I'm also providing for my my clients themselves and helping them grow their business, and it's all sort of tied into each other around that sort of desire to really help people and make a difference. So yeah, I love that you brought that up.
yeah, it's like a win-win-win. And for me, I have mostly female staff, as you know.
Yeah.
And most of my staff either is part-time or we've got a lot of babies at Safe Logic. It's like baby heaven.
Like
Which
women with babies.
yeah.
You got babies over here too in my office.
Yeah, babies.
Virginie just had a baby like a week, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
You remember Virginie? Did you remember meet her?
Yes.
Yeah, she had a baby, and then Kelsey obviously had a baby as well.
Yeah.
We have only 6 employees. We got 2 babies.
So backing up to why I became safety. So I took that job. It was fun, whatever.
Yeah, how'd the universe lead you there?
Then I decided to transfer my credits and work towards a safety degree, which I was able to do quickly and get some certifications.
There's a safety degree, actual safety degree.
Yeah, I have actually an actual bachelor's of occupational safety and health.
Cool.
And so I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to transfer to that. I got a job as the safety director when they built the Eklutna generation station, the power plant out in Eklutna.
Got it.
So it was like the biggest construction project in Alaska at the time.
Is it like a hydroelectric thing?
It's dual fuel. So they have engines, and then also they're bringing in natural gas. So
okay.
Anyway, at the time, it was $265 million construction project, and they needed a safety manager for construction for the client, which was Matanuska Electric. And that person was going to oversee the safety professionals for the contractors. So there was like several big prime contractors, and they all had their own safety teams on site. So this person was going to be the lead of that. So when I got the call to interview for it, I like literally laughed. I was like, I'm 27. I don't I wasn't done with the safety degree. Like I did not.
You didn't feel like you knew shit yet.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest.
Okay.
Sorry, everyone, but I didn't know shit. But I kept everyone safe because I cared.
Yeah.
And that was the thing is I went and I interviewed. They offered me the job. I was making a lot of money and had a lot of responsibility at a young age. And it was like, whoa, crazy. So every single day I would show up at work. I would walk the project, and I had awesome coworkers who taught me so much. Like the construction manager, this guy named Matt would always be like, okay, this is what they're doing. Yeah. And then I'd go back to my office and I'll be like, Google. And I'd be like, okay.
But here's the thing, like doing. Young people, I don't think maybe they are. Maybe there's people that are willing to throw themselves into situations where they don't know shit and they're just forced to learn. But that's how I've always learned as well, is like, I'm just going to do this. I don't even know what it means or what
what
fake it doesn't mean.
You make it. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, and there is a lot to be said, the fake it till you make it thing, because you really don't know what you don't know until you know.
Yeah.
Right?
And then we have the intranets, so you can
You
pretty much
have
learn whatever
the
you
world.
need
Yeah.
to. And if you are humble enough to approach people in a way of like an attitude of like, I want to understand what you're doing, they will tell you what they're doing and they'll tell you how they could be doing it safer or what you
Oh.
should look at or whatever. So I
So
actually
there's a bit of
learned so
strategy to get
much. Yeah.
information out of people by approaching them a
Yeah.
certain way with things
Yeah.
and being open to learning.
Yeah. And they respect you for that because you're not coming in trying to be a know-it-all or whatever. So I did that job successfully for 2.5 years.
You were just on that job.
No, this was like 15 years ago.
Okay.
12 maybe. No, actually, this would have been 10 years ago. Okay. So I was doing that job and then it was coming to the end of that job and I was pregnant with my third child and I was married and I was like, okay, I'm kind of worn out, kind of pregnant, kind of worn out. I don't really want to take another full-time job or be on a project where I'm like walking around a construction site. And so I decided to get my business license and do some consulting part-time because I had saved up some money to like get me through because I wasn't going to get maternity leave with that position like paid. So I'd saved up some money for my own maternity leave and I'm really good at like writing programs and doing that kind of work. So I had decided I wanted to get my business license and supplement the money that I had saved and my husband's income by working, 10 to 20 hours a week from home on the computer. So I set up a little home office. I thought about a name. I thought about like, where do I see this going? And I was like, okay, I want to set everything up correctly in a position that it can grow or scale or whatever. So I thought about the name, filed the business license.
How'd you come up with the name? That's always it's so fucking hard. Like if
it was so hard.
For anybody
actually,
who started
it took me
a business,
like a month. It was like it actually delayed my business from opening for like a month because I just was like, I can't choose and I don't want to change it. And
where did you get it? Like, how'd you come up with it?
I
like, what were some, and give me some of like the other names too. I want to hear some what it could have been. It was 10 years ago.
I'm trying to think.
But this was a decade ago.
It was like trying to name a baby, but harder.
I think it's way harder.
Even kidding. I was like, so I didn't want it to have the word safety in it.
Yeah.
I was pretty strong on that. I didn't want it to have weird initials, just same with a baby. You don't want your kids' initials to be something stupid, like where it like spells a word. I remember I wanted it to be kind of like something like creative, but I had somebody tell me too, they were like, hey, Alaskans love the word Alaska in the name. And I was kind of like, meh. So fast forward to now,
cliche.
We are DBA as Safe Logic and Safe Logic Pacific.
Okay, so you had a different name.
No, I started it as Safe Logic Alaska, so that's the main primary
Safe Logic
LLC.
Alaska. Got it.
Mm-hmm. But I think I had like a list and I would Google and I would look up other safety companies and it was like blah, 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 whatever, safety stuff. And I didn't want it to be too weird where you wouldn't identify it as a safety company.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So somehow I honestly have no idea, but I think I literally woke up in the middle of the night and was like, Safe Logic.
Yes.
And then everyone I told was like, yes, that's it. That's the one.
It felt good.
Yeah. And so, and also big shout out to the owner of Cornerstone General Contractors, Joe Jolly. He did.
My boy Joe.
Yeah.
We played hockey with Joe.
My homie. He was pushing me to get my business license and was like, do it and then help us do the stuff. So I did. Cornerstone was my first client. So as soon as I had my business license, I had guaranteed work for Cornerstone General Contractors. And it was like 10 hours a week, maybe 15. And I was doing like a new safety manual and like written programs and cleaning up their stuff, the safety stuff. That there's a lot of admin stuff to safety that people don't realize.
Yeah.
And so then when that, got caught up, then it became, okay, like now we're going to go out to the job sites and we're going to do all this stuff. And then kind of word on the street got out that I was doing some good things for Cornerstone. And then next thing you know, it was like, okay, well, these other companies want me to work for them. Well, I was a mom and I had a new baby and I had these older kids. And I was like, man, I don't know how much work I can actually do myself. But I was able to fill my plate for a couple years working about 40 hours a week. And then it got to the point where I was like at a tipping point. And so I found Christina, my business manager now. She came on board full time. It was more than what I could afford to pay her, but I knew she was worth it. And I'm like, if I have her and she's worth it, then we can get enough work.
This is something I wanted to stick on because obviously we're having a conversation here, but also for people out there who either own a business or solopreneur, somebody who's like on their own doing this stuff and needs to get somebody on their, on their team and are scared of the expense, payroll expenses. It's the biggest expense for any business. But I had this same kind of, epiphany, I guess, if you will, where, you're at a point where you're like, we need these things done and we don't have the bandwidth to do it, but we don't have the money right now to pay somebody what they need to get paid. But we know if we potentially hire them, that we'll get it's like the chicken before the egg. It's like, do we get the business and then hire the person? Well, that doesn't work because then we're underwater. And then when we hire the person, they're going to be underwater with us. So I would just tell people out there, like, if you're going to grow, you have to hire people. And every time I've hired people, I've seen my income for the business grow with it substantially. And it's not just like 1 for 1. It's sometimes like 10 times or 5 times as we bring on new people. So I just want to make sure that people know, like, don't be scared to hire people. Like, that is the biggest thing we can do as entrepreneurs, is like push some stuff off our plate, take some hats off our head, give it to other people to do, and pay them good for it.
Yes.
And it will all come back to you.
Yes.
Even more.
Especially, so you have to pay to play. Like, you can't go into this being like, well, I don't want to spend money on anything, because you're going to do this dance like continuously forever, essentially. Like, it's always that way. And every business, even like the $100 million a year contractors, are doing the same dance. So you really need to be okay with some risk.
Yeah.
And that is one thing where it's like, hey, I just believe it's all going to work out, and then it does. So that's, if you just tell yourself that enough times, totally. Like, I was literally like dying of cancer. Like, I'm okay. I'm going to live. And here I am. So there is something to be said about what you believe and what you tell yourself. And maybe sometimes you're delusional, but like, it's okay, because mentally your thoughts change like the chemistry of your cells and like your DNA.
It's
like,
so
if you
true.
Tell yourself that you can do it. And the other thing is you have to be able to believe not only in yourself, but other people.
Yes.
So for me to put trust into other people, like Christina, when I met her, I think I had met like 13 people before her for like coffee, because that was my thing. I meet people for coffee. It's not an interview. I just want to
get a feel.
I want to talk
get a
to
vibe.
You.
Yeah.
If I don't like your vibe, then my clients aren't going to like your vibe, because my clients love me.
Yes.
They trust me. They like me. They believe me. They let me do their things. So my thought process is, if they like me, are they going to like somebody completely different than me? Maybe. But I was literally looking for my
clone
sister, if you will. Not a clone, but if you look at my website, we all kind of, it's like, it's like a little clan of people. But there's a similar personality trait in everyone that has stuck with my company and has worked out. And that is, you have to be like a people person and have to be like able to it with safety, more so than like accounting or marketing or something.
For sure.
You just have to be able to mediate things, work through situations, because it's a high hazard, high risk, high emotions industry.
Yeah.
So everyone who works for me is very like people oriented and pretty, like, you have to kind of have that like calm but high energy type of thing going.
Yeah.
But if you find a unicorn, so I will call Christina a unicorn because she is one. After 13 coffees, I met her and I was like, she's the one.
Yes.
I mean, it was, it's very similar to dating. I tell people, like, you don't have to commit. You don't have to become somebody's like girlfriend if you can't even have a cup of coffee with this person. So like, before you actually go to a dinner,
probably shouldn't become their girlfriend.
Yeah.
I mean,
but like, if you think about it, normal interview process,
it's so bad.
You submit an application, they read the resume, and then like you get an interview. They ask you 10 questions, you answer them, and you get a job offer. Like, what? Now we're committed.
Yeah.
No, I'm not trying to be committed. First, I'm going to LinkedIn stalk you or Facebook. So anyone who's listening, just know that every employer, whether they're supposed to do that or not, they're looking up your LinkedIn and your Facebook. So you better keep that tight and
Yep.
right.
Yeah.
And then it's like, now that I have some background on who this person is, I meet them for coffee. It's a vibe check. If they don't pass the vibe check, I don't even care what's on their resume. I don't even care what they say, how they'll handle an incident investigation.
Yeah.
I want the vibe, so that you bring that person on, and then you will see your profits and the business scale, and you can do more. But you have to be okay to delegate, because if you have to be in control of everything, you can't scale your business. And sometimes when you give control away, people are going to really mess some things up, or they're not going to do it your way. But it's like, if you try to do everything, you run out of time.
Yeah.
And
Your band, you only have so
is
much
best
bandwidth. And
doing
yeah,
the
as an
big
entrepreneur, you
things.
want to enjoy the fruits of being an entrepreneur, which is like, I should have, the ability to stop working when I want to stop working and come to work when I want to work and do things that I want to do. And it shouldn't be, like you have employees for these things, and you have the ability to delegate. And yeah, I think people, especially business owners, definitely have, including myself, have a hard time letting things go. Right. But back to the people thing, I think I'm a big believer in the universe. You're talking about like the thoughts and how they affect you. I'm totally like on that in that realm. But like when I look at the room of people that I have, and like the connections I've made through my business, and the staff that's come to me over the last 3 years, it's all been just organic. I've never like tried to force like, I need to hire somebody right now and they need to have these exact skills. Literally, I was just in my head thinking about the types of people I want and the need to have somebody do a specific thing, whether it's a videographer or ads guy. All these people kind of just slowly came to me. I'm like, that's the guy. Somebody will be like, hey, I know this guy that does this. I'm like, let me talk to him. And then it became a employee. And I've never actually like had that where I'm like, I got to find somebody, and I'm like having multiple cups of coffee with people.
Well, I think that was kind of my starting point, and now it's always just kind of like they're organically flowing in, and sometimes they flow out, and that's okay. And that's the thing is I created a little letter to like warn people what they were walking into, so that we don't bring people in who have these weird expectations of like what a corporate job is like.
Yeah.
Because that's just not the way for like companies like ours. And so they need to understand things are a little bit different. Like, your work is now, it's coming directly out of my pocket, and it's coming out of the rest of the team's bonuses. So if you have somebody who's used to maybe having zero accountability, and they're not producing like good quality work in the time that you're paying them, it's like it almost kind of feels like you're being stolen from, because you're like, hey, another thing is like, I like to share profits, and I like to take really good care of my people. And like, sometimes I'll like, hey, you want to get paid for the day to go golf with a client, or we're going to take the day off and go volunteer for the Arctic Winter Games, or do things like that. But we can't do that if we're paying for a bunch of people on overhead who aren't contributing. So everyone has to carry their weight on the team. And
we're
it's
not
like a team sport. It's like
totally
a Olympic soccer team. Like, if everybody's not in it to win it, then those people cycle out. So I've kind of gotten to the point now where when we're thinking about bringing someone on, I'm like, here's the whole situation and my expectations before you even walk in the door.
That's awesome.
'Cause why not?
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, because I've had similar situations on my team where employee came from a different, bigger, a big box store, let's say, and he was kind of used to just like, they would just like, we would come in at 7 a.m. and if there was nothing to do, we would just like sit around till 3 o'clock and not do anything. And there were some situations, here where I was like, hey man, like, if you're not producing work, you can't be clocked in. Like,
well, because we can't afford that. And
this is a small. There's only 5 of us here. Like, if you're not pulling your weight, like that's and and he's probably going to listen to this because he's editing it. But
But it's not their fault
he
necessarily.
yeah, that's what I'm
it's
saying.
Like they're
Like,
coming into it not realizing
they
the
just have
difference.
bad. It's a bad precedence that's been set by these bigger companies who can afford to let people just, there's a lot of people just maybe not pulling their weight or just, kind of waiting around for the work. But in this environment, you have to be what I call plugged into the value stream. And that's when you come in to clock in, you're adding value to the business in some way. You can't just, I'm trying to get this done, or I'm working on this or thinking about this. It's like, no, you're doing stuff to move the needle forward. And that's a big conversation we have a lot at Orange Slice.
Yeah, I love that concept.
Yeah.
Plugged into the value stream.
The value stream.
Noted. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah, it's a hard thing to bring people into companies like ours where it's like there's a culture, there's a vibe, there's a goal, there's a value stream, and it's very easily disrupted.
Yeah.
It's like a fragile little orchid.
Yeah.
And if you've ever tried to keep an orchid alive, you're like, what the hell? Like,
I've never
just
tried to
even
keep an
look
orchid
at it
alive,
wrong and it
but
just
any kind
dies.
of plant. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the crazy thing is like it's just a dance, like, constantly. And the reason that I do it versus making the same amount of money, maybe more, maybe less, as a corporate safety director, I do it because I have the time that I want and the freedom to choose when I use that time to spend time with my kids. And after having cancer, like, nothing really matters to me. Like, run my car into something, I'm like, it's just a car.
This is, that's an attitude.
Yeah, like, you're just like, I don't really care.
Well,
I care.
That's
about,
in life in general. It's like there's only a few things that really matter.
Yeah, and that's just life, right? And
like,
it's
just
love, and it's like experiences and like making memories and things like that. And so, again, going back to me having like a heavily female staff, that wasn't like intentional. We are an inclusive employer.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I don't actually need somebody full time for something. And it's really hard as a mom with like a new baby to be in the workforce and be able to be home in the amount of time that you feel is right for you and your baby, to nurse, to feed, to do the things, and also keep your career moving forward. So when I started Safe Logic, it was because I wanted to be a mom of a newborn and be able to also keep my career moving forward. So having people on my staff that have like 1-year-olds and they're nursing, and we're working with them around that schedule, and they're hybrid. So they're in the office part-time, home sometimes. It's a really amazing thing to be able to provide to other people the same thing I'm providing to myself. So it's like you're plugged into the value stream, but you're also having a good work-life balance and reaping the rewards of that as well. Because when you're kicking ass and we're making money, it's like we can give bonuses and we can do the things. But for me, like, Safe Logic has grown just organically, pretty sustainable pace over the last 8 years. It's not, quadrupled, triple doubled every single year, but some years it has.
Yeah.
This has been one of our best years. And, but like, we had some hard times. Like, we had some pretty rough 2-year period while I was going through chemo, but my staff kept things going. I was able to still work.
Yeah. It's such an inspiration to see that you like 5 years into owning this business, or whatever it was, 6 years into owning this business, you got cancer and had to like completely figure out how to run the business while going through all this. How did that?
Yeah, it was.
How did all? Yeah, like how? I don't even know how that would work. You must have had a great team.
You just have to choose it, I guess.
Yeah.
Also, I do think that it's very important to stay. Like, if you have cancer or you get cancer, you can't treat it like the end of the world. And you have to stay plugged into things that you love, that make
give you energy,
feel good. And a lot of people, so it was also during COVID, and there was several times where I was like less than 100 pounds, didn't have a single ounce of body weight, had 0 white blood cells in my blood count. And it was like, if you catch COVID, you die. Plain and simple. Like, you can't even catch the flu. So what do you think my doctor and my friends wanted me to do, and my family?
Be in a bubble.
Yeah. But
you're like, fuck
no,
that.
thank you. Guess what? I was like flying airplanes with my flight instructor. I was like, I will do what I want until the day I die. And if today's the day I die, then that's what I'm going to do. Cause I'm going to rather die crashing an airplane than freaking sitting at home in a bubble by myself.
Which would have been depressing. So you were
right.
searching out these energy kind of
Yeah,
positive situations to keep you high.
I wasn't exactly like, I mean, I wasn't doing crazy stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Most days I would, like, in the morning, my sleep schedule was like almost like, think of it like an infant. It's like you don't sleep all night, but they don't sleep all day, but it's like, yeah, you're sleeping and then you're
exhausted,
awake. And I would just focus on like what I could do that day. So if I could join a Zoom call, I would. If I didn't feel like it, I wouldn't. If I could walk to the end of the driveway or like sit out on my back porch in the sun, that was a win. I would make fresh juice. I would, my kids would come have like dates with me, like in bed. And when they would get home from school, they would take a shower, like just take a shower,
be clean,
get clean, come into mom's room. We were not like overly cautious, but we did what we could and what I felt comfortable with. But then as I started going through the process, I did notice that those like wins for me, like, I also graduated my bachelor's degree when I had cancer. So that was cool.
Oh my gosh.
But I finished my last like elective during that time. But those like little wins or those little outings, I remember one time I went fishing. I took a small plane over to Beluga and it was like really easy fishing. Like all the fish just bite the hook. Like don't even have to try. But I caught like a handful of silvers that day. And those things would really like, because if you're going to die anyway, you don't know. Like when you're going through cancer treatment, you actually don't know if it's even working until you like get through the first 6 months and then they check you. So I just planned as if I'm going to live, but also like prepared, I got a will and I did all that. But for me, not just being like, oh, it's over and closing Safe Logic, I think mentally, kind of kept me going along. And I think that my clients in the community like really helped me with that because they're very understanding. And I would sometimes if I was in a lot of pain, I'd eat a weed edible or like something.
Yeah.
And that was what you're supposed to do because like you have cancer.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll just process some invoices or payroll. And then I'd get like an email that was like, this math is not good.
Oh no, you were kind of like, your brain wasn't working.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Let me fix that. And people were very understanding. And the community was like super good to me. Like my clients didn't just like bail. And my employees like really held things together. So that's the thing is like, I don't know. It was unexpected and it was kind of crazy, but the fact that I was able to keep doing it, like I'm proud of.
It's super inspirational. Yeah. I think anybody listening to this, like I said, there's nobody listening to this anyway. So maybe until you come on.
Actually know
I don't know that. But it's, for anybody going through these things, I mean, it's just amazing that you were able to, continue to run a business somewhat and continue to service clients and do things. But the inspirational part to me is like the fact that you realize and recognize the importance of staying like high and staying positive and staying energetic and doing things that energize you and didn't, like you said, just give up. Because I think a lot of people get that diagnosis and they probably just say like, fuck.
A lot of people choose to die.
And people cry around them and everybody. You were telling me a story about how you wouldn't let people cry around you.
Get out.
Yeah. Like, I don't need that. I don't want that energy.
You don't. Also, so I think the hardest things, I was just talking to my daughter about this in Maui like 3 days ago. I was floating in the ocean with full scuba kit on. Me and my daughter got scuba open water certified last week.
Yeah, you told me.
So she's getting claustrophobic underwater. You have to do all these things like to prove you're safe.
I got scuba certified, by the way, once.
So you know how you have to take your mask off when you're like sitting on the bottom?
Oh, yeah.
And then put it back on.
As a part of the,
it's a little scary. Yeah. My daughter's 15 and it was kind of high surf. I felt like we were like in a washing machine while we were trying to do it. There was low visibility, like the sand was all
kicking up.
Yeah, everywhere. And she was just getting really overwhelmed. And so we go to the surface and I'm like, okay, scuba instructor is about to kick my daughter out. And I'm like, not my kid, no, 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 no. So I'm like, I got to like reach to the depth of my soul to inspire this kid to go back to the bottom of the ocean, take her mask off, and freaking just breathe. Like, that's all you have to do. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to reach for it. And I'm like treading water. And I just want to be like, just do it. That's the only speech I actually wanted to give. But I'm like, honey, you can do hard things because it's a choice and it's mental. Whether it's scuba diving without, like if you're claustrophobic, like you might be claustrophobic, but you still mentally have a choice not to be. When you're going through cancer, when you're trying to climb Everest, my daughter and I also hiked to Everest Base Camp last year. This year, it took 10 days of
Not
hiking.
a big deal. That's
It was a big
huge.
deal.
Yeah,
and there
it
were
is
so
a
many
big deal.
days, so many times I'm like,
Yeah.
I just don't want to do this anymore. But that's the thing is like
It's hard.
with business ownership, with beating cancer, with scuba diving when you're feeling claustrophobic, whether you're hiking to Everest Base Camp or trying to summit a mountain, or you're trying to, give birth to a baby. Those are kind of like the biggest things in my life where I've felt very challenged.
Aren't those the points too where we grow the most? When we get super uncomfortable and things feel
Yes.
super fucking hard?
And then you're like, but I can do it.
And then you get through it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been where I am now if I didn't go through that thing. And it's a lot of little things. A lot of times I tell my kids that too. I'm like, if it's not hard, it's probably not worth doing. So make sure you get yourself into situations where things feel a little uncomfortable, and that's where the growth happens.
Yeah. I mean, and let's be real, I love just like Netflix and chill with some ice cream, which is not hard and it's totally worth doing, but there's got to be a balance. And that's the thing is like, if you don't push yourself in those situations and you let yourself quit, you start telling yourself a mental story that like, I'm a quitter. Like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
If you start pushing yourself and you're like, I can do that. Oh, I did do that. Then it builds on to the next experience.
Yes.
So then you're looking at like, can I pass this scuba test? And I said, like, honey, you hiked to Everest Base Camp and you didn't give up and you didn't quit. I'm like, and then Jess, our awesome friend who summited Everest, that we left her at base camp and then she continued on to summit. And she was the first ever ovarian cancer patient, recovered patient to summit Everest. And it was like, if little powerhouse Jess can summit Everest, which takes another 6 weeks on top of the base camp trek, then you can certainly go 10 feet under this water, take your mask off, blow some bubbles into it, and choose to breathe. Like, because you have air. You have air. You just have to choose to breathe it. And that's life. Like, that's cancer. That's entrepreneurship. It's like, if you choose to breathe, there's air. If you choose to keep hiking and just keep putting one foot in front of the other, you're going to get to the top. It might take you a long time, but that's all you do when you're hiking. Is they literally say the Sherpas and the guides won't even tell you how much longer. They're like, just one more foot in front of the other.
It's a mental thing. Yeah, they understand it. Like, if we start telling people there's another 8-12 hours, people are going to be like, I'm done.
Right.
Get the helicopter up here.
Yeah. And I mean, and to be fair, like, we did have a couple people in our group need to take a helicopter back down, and that's actually pretty normal for the Everest Base Camp trek because it's low oxygen. You're getting in really high altitude. You're exhausted. You've been hiking, and
it's dangerous.
For days.
It's legitimately dangerous. Yeah,
and you have to get helicopter insurance because they know that people are going to need it. But typically, a group, it'll be like 60% of the group will actually go down in a helicopter, and only like 40% will make it up. In our group, we had all but 2 out of 20 people, and one of them was actively in chemo, so like she gets a hall pass.
No doubt.
Saying like she is a stud. Like the fact that she even flew to Nepal.
Yeah, talk about hard stuff. It's chemo. Like just getting on the plane in that situation and doing the travel to get there and then to go. Yeah. So what are some of the we're going to wrap up here in a second because I think we're supposed to keep it to like 45 to an hour is what my producers tell me, because I get to talking sometimes too. But I kind of want to get to know a little bit more about like if you do like what you do for yourself, like mentally. Talk about doing hard stuff. And I've been doing this cold plunge thing for the last year personally. And
you can keep that to yourself.
I know. My employees tell me, they're like, you haven't posted anything on social media about that. And I'm like, nope. Because that's like a big thing, right? But it's all about, for me, like putting myself in situations where I'm really uncomfortable. And because so when I get into a situation when I am really uncomfortable, I can handle it. I can breathe through it. I know that it's going to pass, and I can actually maybe even think a little bit and have like some wherewithal to be able to think myself out of a situation. And even with clients, when I'm in a, you've been in these conversations with clients where it gets a little bit uncomfortable, or they're telling you something happened that it was your fault, or maybe you got to kind of get out of those situations. And it's the same feeling of getting in that water for me as it is in those really uncomfortable conversations. So being able to train yourself to deal with that is important to me. And I just want to hear maybe a little bit about like how you take care of yourself and how you prepare yourself for those situations, and sort of personally what you do for your own, personal care.
Yeah, so for me, I think this is huge. I do think it's the only reason Safe Logic has sustained that I'm able to homeschool my kids or that I beat cancer is that I take the time that I need for a few things and I put that above pretty much everything else. One is sleep. Like anybody who thinks that they're a machine that is going to sleep 4 to 5 hours a night and just keep on trucking, like you don't realize that even if you can do it, you shouldn't do it. And even if you get 2, 3, 4 hours of sleep and go to work either, hungover, super tired or whatever, is like, you're not at mental top capacity. So when I'm working, I want to be on the top of my game. So if that means I work an hour less and I sleep an hour more, that to me is huge. Also, obviously, exercise and like having those endorphins and taking care of your body. So while I was actively in chemo, I got a physical therapist who helped rehabilitate like my muscles and giving me protein. So by the time I was actually done with chemo, I'd regained all the weight that I had lost. And I think that was huge. So like mentally having friends or having a therapist to talk to. I had a therapist on a couple different points where I'm a big advocate for mental health, and it's like people don't want to use the doctors that, like, if you have insurance or even if you don't, um there's so many providers and sometimes you have to get on a list. So it's like better to get them sooner than later. But
Yeah, there's resources
going
if
to the
you're having.
doctor,
Yeah.
like being okay, like seeing a mental health professional, like you go to the dentist to clean your teeth. You don't just try to clean your own teeth, right? Like kind
Speak
of,
for yourself.
like you
I don't
brush
go to
your
the
teeth,
dentist.
but like,
Nope. And I don't brush my teeth.
yes,
Just kidding.
yes, you do. But so that's like one thing that I'm really passionate about is like, yeah, it is hard sometimes. Like beating cancer is not just like, oh yeah, I'll walk in the park. Being a business owner, going through a divorce, whatever it is
Raising
that,
kids.
yeah,
Hello.
raising kids
It's
can
the
be
hardest
very
thing.
hard and
Yes.
very unfulfilling feeling. You feel like nobody appreciates me. They don't. Maybe they
Not
will.
until
They're
in
like
their
40,
20s. Yeah.
maybe. But that's the thing is there's all these factors. Some people are working remote. Some people don't have a significant other to lean on. Some people want kids but can't have them. Whatever is causing you to either have depression or experience anxiety, or maybe none of those things are happening, but you need somebody outside your circle that can give you objective advice and like help you focus on getting to the place where you can be healthy. And so I had a phenomenal therapist for a while, like at the end of having cancer and then through part of my recovery. A lot of cancer patients get a little PTSD. We get a little like,
Is it going to come
is
back?
it coming back?
Is what's that?
Or
Like we
what,
feel and stuff.
or
Yeah.
what just happened to me? Like
Yeah.
that was traumatic,
Yeah.
honestly. It was
Yeah.
kind of traumatic. You're like laying there writing letters to people, like, cause you think you're going to die and then you don't die. And then you're like, oh, okay. So you're preparing for your death is traumatic. And so I had some PTSD from that. Right. So the thing is like none of us are above getting help for mental health. And also some of it's just science. Like if you don't get sleep, something is going to go wrong with your mental health and your physical health. Like your body actually needs it because science says.
Totally.
Also, it needs good food and it needs exercise, and Alaskans need that more than anyone else. And we also need vitamin D. So it's like,
Yeah.
if you can just get some extra sleep, take your vitamins, try to eat a salad. Like, that's going to get you so much further. But you see a lot of people struggling with their mental health, struggling with addiction, struggling with alcohol. It's dark if you're eating shit.
It's just a
You're
circular
sleeping
thing.
like
Yeah,
shit. It's
like,
like you're just getting depleted.
And you're not hanging out with the right people. You're not paying attention. I tell people, and my kids this too. It's like, you got to pay attention to your thoughts, because that internal voice will get you. It'll get you in a negative loop about everything that's wrong or everything. You have to check that voice. And I think that's where mental health starts, is in your head, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But then getting things out of you that, you need to talk about, or you need to release. I think emotions wise is really important. I do yoga
I love yoga.
I know. And I've learned that it's not a competition, and it's not even actually,
coming from a dude.
I know.
You see a dude walk into the first day of yoga class and they're like trying to kill themselves to like do tree poses, and you're like, calm down, buddy. This is not a competition.
I've done yoga since the beginning of the year. I got a membership at Anchorage Yoga here. Shout out to Anchorage Yoga. And I was doing yoga 3 to 5 times a week up until like September, right? So for like 10 months. I know. I didn't quit. I haven't quit.
I'm joking.
I started to get like really bad, like back pain, like my sacrum and my lower back was like just compressing. And I realized I was over efforting in class. I was trying so hard to get these poses perfect. And I've been doing this for a long time. So I was getting super sore, and I shouldn't have been getting sore. So I realized I was over efforting, and I was trying to do things that my body didn't want to do. I was like forcing myself, like we do, right? We resist and we force. So I started reading more about yoga, and it's really just like kind of like a religion almost. And it's like, you're supposed to do yoga and connect with yourself and be able to move energy around your body. And you shouldn't try to force things or create sort of some position that your body isn't wanting to go into. And it's about removing blockages and allowing these energy areas to release.
Your chakra flow.
Yeah. And
that's such a dude thing to go to yoga and like overwork yourself.
That's what I'm saying. I totally did it. And I hurt myself. And now I mix up yoga and other things, and not just do yoga like I had been. But I learned a lot about myself through that process. And just, I guess if the message is just, don't
everything
try to
in moderation.
Yeah, don't try to compete in everything. Everybody has a different body, and figure out how you can best treat yours, which will help with everything. So
I just think also like moderation is so key, and I might maybe to my deficit a little bit. Like, I'm like, I don't need to be the best at anything. Like, I don't. Like, I don't need to be the healthiest, but I'll maybe eat a little healthier than most people. And I don't need to like not drink. It's not sober for 30 days. It's like, I'll just drink a drink when I want to occasionally, but not like overuse it.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't work out like all the time. It's not a competition. I'm like, but I do what I can.
I think the point is to do it for yourself, right? And not do it to compete against somebody else. And I've been doing fasting. So that's another thing that I do on a regular basis. I fast till 2 p.m. at least.
Called deadlines. Like, have you eaten today? Like, what?
No, what? God. Food? No. No, I've been doing this for over a year now, and it's been amazing for me. I know it doesn't work for everybody, but in terms of energy, like, the breaking point for me was I ate lunch somewhere here in town, and I had like fries and I actually had a beer at lunch, and which I normally would do, and like a I don't know, it was like a meat cheese sandwich, something, and it was super heavy. And I got back to the office, and I literally like couldn't keep my eyes open. Like, I was like, I laid down on the couch, and my staff was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I just can't right now." And so from that point on, I'm like, I didn't like the way I felt, and I couldn't work basically for that time when I was just had the food, they call it food coma, right? So I chose to just start trying fasting. I'd been reading about it. 18 to 22 hours is kind of the key time frame of fasting, and I've had amazing results personally. I lost like 15 pounds like within the first few months, and I've kept it off since. But it's another hard thing that I do that's like it's uncomfortable a lot of times when I haven't eaten at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. But for me, it helps with my mental clarity, and it also feels like I'm doing something that is disciplined. Like, it feels like I'm disciplining myself. I'm not
Yeah. No,
Just making
discipline is good.
it,
For
I'm
sure.
not just doing everything easy. I'm because
Yeah.
food's always there. That's the problem with food. It's like always we're like, oh, I can have snacks, and we have donuts and everything in our office and little high chews and trail mix, and you can just sit and snack all day, and a lot of people do. And I think food has to be more of a treat. It should be like special. And now that I fast, and now when I go to eat, guess what? I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever eaten in my life. And it just might be a sandwich my wife made for me, or, like a salad from Sweet Caribou. I'm like, this tastes so good. Like,
well, it's like fuel. And that's the thing that I think people don't really recognize. Not all people, a lot of people do, but your body is it's like an engine. Like you've got to fuel it. You've got to let it rest.
Yep.
You've got to take good care of it because the other thing is when something does happen, whether it's a sports related injury or cancer or something, the better shape that you're in, the better the outcome is going to be. And I was in like probably the top best shape of my life and the healthiest when I got cancer. And I think if I had been in less or worse condition, it probably wouldn't have turned out so well.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah. So staying healthy is an important thing. We learned that in COVID too, like the high risk people were
exactly
obese and things like that. But yeah, the thing, what you said about taking a break sometimes, like giving yourself a break, whether it's from intense exercise or for fasting, is just giving your stomach a break from digesting food. So
yeah, for sure.
There's something called autophagy, and autophagy occurs at a certain point in your fast when you haven't eaten anything. Your stomach cells in your stomach start to look inside itself and start to repair themselves in this process called autophagy. So you start to get healthier gut and better bowel movements, I should say. Yeah.
Well, this podcast has covered all the things.
All the things.
So cool for that.
No, that's one thing I think people should know. It's like food should be treated as fuel, and it should be a treat, and and giving your gut a break is really healthy. And if you're going back, like the way our bodies are designed, it's humans were designed. We for 10,000 years we hunted for maybe days for on one kill, and then we ate that in one sitting, and then so it's not like we were made to be eating all the time, and our stomachs aren't set up for that. I think a lot of people's health issues come from food and bad foods or overeating or anything in moderation. It goes back to that. It's like moderation, right? Is there anything else you want to cover before we say goodbye to everybody?
Not really that I can think of.
Yeah, you have such
I thought you were going to want to talk about safety the whole time, so this has been fun.
No, it's way easier to talk about the stuff that because for me, when I listen to podcasts, I want to hear what people actually think and what they're doing to improve themselves. I'm big on self-improvement and spirituality and
there's so many things. I think as entrepreneurs, people look at people like you or like me in a weird way. Sometimes people like idolize me, like I'm different from them, like
or like you have some skill set that is so proprietary.
They give me too much credit. I'm like, no, I'm just like good at hiring staff that is good at doing their job. I'm good at that. But also like sometimes people think like, oh, you own a business, like you're a millionaire. Like, no, but that's not what it's about. For me, being rich is being able to scuba dive with my kid on a Wednesday
in Hawaii,
while
also on a work trip while she's
exactly.
That is the benefit.
And that's
wealth.
That's where wealth comes in for me. If I wanted to make a lot more money, I certainly could. But that's the thing too, is like just trusting yourself, taking those leaps like we talked about. So being willing to invest in a person, even if you can't afford it, or like a new concept, a new website, certain things like that, where if you don't spend that money, if you don't take that chance, you're not going to get the rewards from it.
Back to the Sherpa, and one step at a time.
Exactly.
You gotta make that step. And in business, the steps are these, whatever it is, hiring a person, creating a process, getting an attorney, having contracts,
and you can
doing
get all
proposals.
Those things right here at Eureka Space.
Shout out to Eureka Space.
I'm just saying, actually, I will say a big part of my growth has been people like you, Andrew, Robin, all the
100%.
people here, because when you can walk into your own office space that you pay like a reasonable amount for, like a small amount, I mean, for what the
Oh,
value
it's
is that we
super.
get
Oh
here.
yeah, people always are like, you pay what, and you get the printers and the
podcast room,
podcast room and the conference rooms,
and then you can like go to the water machine or the coffee
or the
machine,
coffee machine,
and you're like, hey Seth, and you're like, hey, you want to film a podcast? And I'm like, yeah. And then I have like a contract issue, and then I can walk down the hall to the attorney and be like, hey Andrew, and he'll be like, I'll get right to that. And then it's like, it just keeps all this circular like brain energy is just flowing here. And people are like, I've gotten
referrals,
contracts.
I know.
It's all very,
and Alaska is such a small place. We all know it's like 1 degree separation. So if I don't know the person you're talking to, I know somebody who knows them. So, but it comes back to people.
Yeah.
And if you are wondering what special skills you need to get into, I think people need to get better at the soft skills, which is being able to attract and to be able to read and to be able to get collaborate and just realizing that it's not, the hard skills are important, and knowing things like stuff is important. Like you said in the beginning, we have the internet, we have the world's knowledge at our fingertips right now. So focusing on the people side, and I think it starts with taking care of ourselves inside, and that allows us to be able to take care of other people. And I think you and I both understand that, and I hope people out there listen to this, and if they're not doing the things they need to do, they start thinking about doing that one thing, because it's in business and in personal. That one step personally might just be like making that call to the therapist, or asking somebody to sit down for coffee, or
attending like a free networking event. There's so many things in Anchorage, and I have friends call me like, how did you grow your business? I need help. I don't know how to reach people. I'm like, well, there's the golf tournament, or there's the young professionals group, or there's the Project Management Institute's having this, and there's all these free events. There's some that you have to be invited to. But if you know people who are going, be like, hey, can I tag along with you to that yoga conference or whatever it is? Going to luncheons and things, and even if you meet only one person, just the person sitting next to you, that's kind of my goal. Is if I go to an event, if I at least interact with the people sitting next to me and exchange business cards, like maybe if you're feeling introverted, which hasn't really happened to me ever in my life, but I know it happens to other people, then it's like, if you can at least just introduce yourself, give them your card. Typically, if you want to get some good interaction, like approach an extrovert, because we'll just talk to you about like,
we'll do all the
talking.
We'll do all the talking.
Like, we got you covered. But having like, I think with COVID and the work from home culture, like so many people are trying to start businesses where they work remotely and work from home. And like, that's cool. I have a desk in my bedroom. I like to work from home. But this interaction and being in the Eureka space, I actually pay for this office space, not because I need it, because I don't.
It's a part of your marketing strategy.
It's for the human interaction. It's to like know what's going on in the rest of Anchorage, which between all the professionals here, I can pretty much know what's going on in the rest of Anchorage in every industry.
Exactly.
And meeting people who are like similar to me, where I can be like, hey, I'm struggling with my staff. What do you recommend?
Yes.
And having other people to share ideas. So if you really want to get into something specific, then you need to surround yourself with people who are good at that. So like, if you want to be a realtor, go hang out with some real estate agents.
It's the proximity
principle. You want to
principle.
be an entrepreneur? Come hang out with a bunch of us.
It's 100%
entrepreneurs.
It's 100% realizing like, okay, I think I want to do this. Let me find somebody in that industry and figure out if that's what I want to be doing, and hang out with them and talk to them and get a low level job in that whatever industry it is, just to get in. That's called the proximity principle. I've been reading about that. I have this sign up here. I think it encompasses both of what we like to do. We like to have fun and get shit done. That's my mantra has been for like eight years.
I like that.
Yeah, have fun, get shit done. I like my staff to know that we're here to have fun, but we're also going to get some shit done.
Yeah, and you can do both. And that's the thing is like, work doesn't have to suck. Surprise, surprise. Like I could actually love my job and get shit done and like doing it and
help other
make
people.
money
Yeah,
and help
and
other
make money.
people. Like
It's like a
actually,
win-win-win.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think if you're not liking what you're doing as a consultant or an entrepreneur, you probably need to like switch what you're doing. But almost everybody has a skill set that's marketable that they could turn into a business if they so wanted to. Um, but that is definitely part of it. Is like, yeah, some things are not going to be fun. Like I don't always love every single detail that I have to do, but I do like the people that I'm around when I'm doing it, and I do like the outcome of it, and it just keeps you motivated. And it is the risk, taking the leap. Like if you have a job, the other thing is you can start a business before you leave your job. You can get a business license and start small, get your logo created, get your bank accounts opened,
Yep.
get your ducks in a
LLC.
row.
Yeah.
And then you can say, okay, now I'm starting to like kick up some profit with this business. Now it's time I can jump ship.
Yes.
Or you can moonlight and do it that way. But I don't ever suggest somebody to just put all their eggs into one basket and just blindly leap off a cliff.
Do you have any side gigs, by the way?
No.
Besides outside of Safe Logic? No.
I mean, no, just
I mean, Safe Logic has like a million side gigs
yeah,
inside of it. Yeah.
That's the fun thing is like you have a business license, like you can pretty much do whatever you want. And I've had people be like, hey, does Safe Logic, do this? And we're like, no, but that would be cool. Like I got paid actually to speak on a panel about mental health and construction last year to some pretty big conferences.
Wow.
And all I had to do was like talk about the fact that I go to a therapist and talk about from my experience in construction as a safety professional, what I see and how you can address it as like a manager or something on a project. And it's all stuff that I knew about, but like,
that's awesome.
I didn't know I could do that
as
you
could like
business.
get revenue from it. Yeah.
So we definitely take creative turns, and then sometimes we'll shut something down. We'll be like, yeah, we don't really love
this isn't working.
Worker comp claim management, as it turns out.
Yeah.
So we drop that off the list. So that's the thing is, yeah, your business can be whatever you want it to be. And if you like oranges,
orange slices,
cool. Or if you like orange slices, like roll with it. But like maybe in 10 years you might be lemon slice. You don't know. Like it can just be,
or just be like the citrus family. We could just be like citrus slice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe someday we won't be safety.
Randee, it's been unreal. You're always fun to talk to. We catch each
unreal.
other at the office here and just stop and talk for 15-20 minutes every so often. And it's so easy to you're so easy to talk to and actually really inspiring. Truly, I appreciate you coming on. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon.